Welcome to the Chaos. I'm Jill Savage. Today is Friday, December 20th, and this is a special edition of Blaze News Tonight, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. It's AmericaFest. We have over 20,000 patriots joining us here, and of course, sitting next to me, as always, a great patriot in and of himself, Matthew Peterson. He's the editor-in-chief of Blaze News. And to kick off tonight's show, we have Michael Knowles. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael. I think, we always say welcome to the chaos at the top of the show because things are so crazy right now, but it feels like in D.C., things are so crazy trying to get the CR stuff finalized, but it's a good kind of chaos that we're seeing right now because this is the chaos that we have wanted to see. A single issue bill? Could it possibly be happening at this point?
Everybody in the conservative movement wants to be here right now, with one exception, and that would be the Speaker of the House. It's the only guy who says, he was slated. He was. Well, that's what happens, First of all, in defense of Mike Johnson, he has the worst job in all of politics anywhere in the world. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, and there is a lot of chaos there, and the GOP does seem to have held the line, in no small part because of Elon Musk. In no small part because we now own a social media platform thanks to Elon Musk, and so they tear it up. Business as usual is shattered. It's supposed to be right before Christmas. Do you want to go home and visit your kids? Well, you got to give us $1 zillion for nonsense. And now I think the bill went from a 1,525-page bill to like 150 pages or less?
But Elon on election night famously said, we are the media now. Now we are actually media members, but you get the point now because you see something going from 1,500 pages to 116 pages. And the power that the American people have that is now amplified through a platform like X, there's unlimited potential and possibility now where before, right, I saw reports that basically the rhinos were really upset that Mike Johnson didn't get the vote done quick enough so they could just get this bill behind them and they could all go home for their Christmas break.
Yeah, I felt like it was every Elon tweet minus 25 pages,
And that man tweets a lot. I don't know how much of it you waded through. I didn't read much of it, but I did read some portions of the first CR that included the urgent provision. We can't go home for Christmas without this, to redefine in the U.S. Code criminal offenders, to justice-involved persons, which is, of course, the opposite of what a criminal offender is. That is the exact opposite. Or to redefine the homeless as persons who are experiencing homelessness. There was all this gobbledygook, all this euphemism, all this culture and ideology that really had nothing to do with disaster relief or the Farm Bill or whatever nonsense the libs said. And so amazing how you can get rid of 90% of a supposedly urgent and unchangeable law just like that.
Yeah, it is unbelievable time to be alive, and I'm glad that we're all here for it. But here is AmFest, and I have to say, just as a personal confession, in the past, I have not liked political conferences. Let's just put it that way. They're not my cup of tea. It felt like on the right, it was a little cringy, and then on the left, it was really well put together, but everyone was evil and going to destroy America. So really, I kind of wasn't into it. I don't. You have more experience probably in the last few years than I do on this, but I just get this, it's very pleasant, good, normal, and ascending vibes here, I have to say.
Correct. I think your vibe check is completely accurate. There's a woman who came up to me, a woman who, out of college, a woman who's a little bit older, but she said, I've been a Democrat my whole life, and just recently I switched. And she goes, and everyone is so happy and so nice. It's so pleasant, as you say. I agree with you. Some previous political conferences on the right, there's no shortage of them, are a little bit cringy. This one seems a little bit more focused, sincerely exuberant. We're not really trying too hard or trying to sell anyone anything. And why? That comes down to three words. Because we won. We won everything. We won everyone. We won things we didn't know that we could even possibly win. And so at that point, you don't need to try hard. You don't need to divorce your rhetoric from the underlying political reality, as sometimes happens. It's all real, man. It's all really happening.
We won the popular vote. We're not tired of winning yet. So what do you want to see Trump do in his second term, right? There are so many things that could still be on the table. And he always says, promises made, promises kept. He's one of the only presidents in my lifetime that has actually been able to do what he said he was going to do. So what do you want to see the second time around?
Probably top of my list would be reinstalling Franz, the Duke of Bavaria, as the legitimate king of England. That would be way at the top. Now, I know every president can't do everything, so you have to pick and choose. What do I think Trump will choose? He has to deport a lot of people. He actually has to do it. It's crazy to say, and the political chattering class hasn't caught up with it yet, but most Americans want mass deportations. That mass deportations are now a majority mainstream political view. Trump campaigned on it. He has to do something like that. Probably Trump has to deport bureaucrats from the administrative state. I don't see how he gets around that. It's a major promise, and he's even invented a new wing of the government in order to do it with Elon Musk. The third part is probably the tariffs, whether they're tactical tariffs or they're serious revenue-raising tariffs. I think he has to do it because it's probably the most sophisticated and responsible pitch he's made in his presidential campaigns. He's saying, look, there will be some short-term economic issues for certain groups, but we need to protect American workers. It's in our long-term economic and national security interest to make sure that we don't get cut off. We all saw during COVID, when the supply chains were disrupted, how terrible it is to be totally dependent on foreign country. I think he has to do something like that. But okay, now we've gotten through three major issues. Even Trump, he's a very impressive man. I don't think even he could do much more than that.
So here we are, at AmericaFest. Like you said, the vibes are good, and no one has to try hard because, after all, Charlie can just, he has to, he's doing a job for the president, picking everyone, I hope. He certainly has his influence. Everyone has influence. Everyone's in this new situation. And so we're kind of sitting here, and it's all happy. But meantime, outside, a lot of things are still dark. There's a lot of problems, obviously, in the world. And one of the things that just came in through the transom today, I haven't even seen this. I've been running around. But we have in Germany this car rams full speed through a Christmas market, kills at least 11. This is this awful sort of news, and it brought to mind for Jill and I, it's really like a Christianity under attack, right, headline. That there's something positive, spiritual going on in the culture. We've been talking to a lot of people about how this is the most positive time for culture change that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. It's a historic opportunity. We're in a completely different universe, post-November. But at the same time, there is this spiritual war sort of revealing itself. But it seems like things are very stark. And you've been talking about this, thinking about this for a while. How do you read the scene?
Well, those two things are not in conflict with one another. They usually go together. When things are looking good, that's when the devil gets really angry. So it's just awful to hear about what happened in Germany. Christians are the most persecuted religious group in the world, without question, just by numbers. And on top of that, you're seeing the increased persecution of Christians in the Middle East, the fall of Bashar Assad in Syria, probably not a good thing for Syrian Christians. So all sorts of suffering for the faith. So what does that mean for us in the West? And in America, which has more religion than Europe, which is almost entirely secular. Germany at this point is, almost entirely secular. And as you see these awful things happening there, I think what it means for us is we need to follow Tocqueville's observation. Tocqueville observed, and he was saying this in the 19th century, that Americans will end up Catholic or atheist, basically. And I'm not saying everyone needs to swim the Tiber tomorrow, though I wouldn't mind it. But what I at least think is Americans need to take more seriously their Christianity. Americans are being drawn, you just look at the numbers, to a much more orthodox, much more traditional, much more reverent form of Christianity, of the liturgy, of the church, of the whole shebang. So why is that? Because we crave some of the truth. I don't need more of the world at church. I get enough of the world outside the world. And it just as a social scientific fact, the liberal churches are emptying out. So the question is not, are you going to have a more reverent church or a more liberal church? The question is, are you going to have a church or a mosque or a madrasa or a coffee shop? But those are the options. And right now I think Americans are leaning much more into orthodoxy and tradition.
Well, speaking of which, we were talking earlier about the year of Jubilee.
It is. So I said 3 Catholics walk into AmericaFest, and they sit here on Blaze News tonight, and I am so excited. It's going to be a Jubilee year. It all seems like it's coming together in a divine way right now, Michael, and I don't know if you've walked through the Holy Door at that point at the Vatican, but it's going to be opened on Christmas Eve for the full year, and everybody's going to be making the pilgrimage over to Italy.
Look, I really want to make it for the Jubilee year. There's no question about that. I'm intending to go, even with my 3 kids. It's going to be misery on the plane. I don't care. I really want to go. Because not only is there the hope of the Jubilee, the actual religious hope, but also it will give us the political hope, because Americans will look at how the Italian society has been governed for now about 2,000 years, and we'll feel much better about our own form of government, because that country has not had sensible government since Octavian, and that will be a bright spot.
Hot Octavian talk on Blaze News tonight. That's what you come here for. But how does America then get back to its Christian roots? With all of this going on right now in the country, how do you get back to just that faith-based center?
Well, we have to accept some basic rules. We've just welcomed a ton of people in from the left. We've won, by my count, 17% of Democrat presidential candidates from the past 2 cycles voted for Trump this time. So that's all great. But when you have a big tent, you got to make sure you don't lose your identity. I think the first thing to establish in the minds of people is God exists. That's not merely because of religious piety or personal experience or revelation. The existence of God can be known with certainty from the created world by human reason. It's just as we can know Shakespeare from Hamlet, just as we can know the existence of a mover from the thing that is moved, so too we can know the existence of God with certainty. We need to, because that's what tells us what man is, because man is made in the image of God. We're confused about men and women these days. That's a big reason why. Once we know what man is, that man has intellect and will, then we can know what laws are and how we make laws and how we govern ourselves. It's supposed to be a self-government. We have to establish these sorts of principles as non-negotiables, welcoming our new friends in. But we just need a little bit of courage of our convictions. No more, I feel this, or maybe that, or hey, don't yuck my yum, man. No, we can know things, we can know them for certain. And then furthermore, we have to act on them. So once we establish what we know, I don't want to hear people complaining about the decline of the West, people who are refusing to get married and have kids. I don't want to hear complaining about the declining birth rates for 50 years from people who are throwing another box of condoms in their shopping carts. I don't want to hear about it. It's like having an ideas guy at a company. Nobody wants the ideas guys are a dime a dozen, okay? We actually have to act on our convictions, and you can make America great again.
So here's what's really interesting to me, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I've been thinking about this for the last few years. For a lot of my life, right, it was natural law, like we're going to reason, because you can know there's most of human society has known there's a God. Most of human societies, like we're in a blip of time that's actually irregular, right?
Yes.
And I knew this rationally, right? But it was all about like going out there and conquering culture, urban politics, for the good, by arguing, etc., right? And I thought after a while, like, wow, this really doesn't seem to be freaking working, Things aren't going so well. But this weird thing that's happened, that you've seen happen and been part of, is that a ton of young people, when they get to when it's all reduced to the absurd, when you take away all kind of religion, conservative thought, whatever, and they have nothing other than what they're being brainwashed with, in the Borg culture that they live in. What ends up happening is a funny thing, right? Without anyone giving them any arguments about anything, they snap into something that's natural, which we also knew. I knew that this isn't, how can you have a society where people don't get married and have kids? They'll just die out. Like, how can you have a society, how can you do this? It's just unnatural. I feel like the reduction to the absurd has happened, and now you see this snapback among young people, which relates to everything we see here at AmFest.
I think the left is really worried about this because we all talk about transgenderism because it's so crazy. And some people want to say, all right, we'll get rid of transing the kids, but forget about all the rest of it. We can still trans the adults, and we do all the weird sex stuff, and it's fine. Why did they trans the kids? Because they say that men can become women. But okay, so if we're saying it's wrong to trans the kids, we are implicitly saying men actually can't become women, or that's not universally true, or whatever. Well, transgenderism didn't fall out of a coconut tree, to quote Kamala Harris. I mean, it came from the ideology that gave us the redefinition of marriage, which is impossible, but they tried. It comes out of the ideology of the sexual revolution. It comes out of the ideology of feminism. So, feminism says men and women are practically the same. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. So it seems to me that left had such success following their ideas to their illogical conclusions that now, as you say, Matt, with that snapback, I think what the left really fears is it's going to keep on going back. We're going to keep swinging back, and I cheer it on.
We are going to celebrate the fact that we do not have to have a brat Christmas season this year. I could not take it.
Losing
if we
the
had to
popular
do
vote
that.
is so brat, don't you think?
It's so
What is
in
it? We're going to have
right
a
now.
Mayflower Christmas, right?
We are going to have a Mayflower Christmas. As long
I
as you're
shouldn't
21
have
years
even
old or older, Mayflower cigars are not for anyone younger than 21. Some exclusions apply. If I don't say that, the lawyers will get me, maybe even in the Trump DOJ.
Well, tell them where they can get them if we're
They
going to
can-
go this far. Come on.
Well, you can get them at mayflowercigars.com, a very, very fine place to get your patriotic, celebratory, sophisticated, hopeful, looking to the future kind of cigars.
Huge,
may have one
huge
tonight.
cigars.
We love our
'em.
Mayflowers, folks, don't we?
We love them. We love Michael Knowles. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Great to be with you both.
This part of the show is brought to you by Good Ranchers, because what's worse than coal in your stockings? Having imported meat in your fridge. And Santa wouldn't do that to the worst people on the naughty list. So go ahead and subscribe to any of their 100% American meat or wild-caught seafood boxes, and you can get a 10-pound spiral-cut holiday ham included for free. And they have the box for everybody that's there on your wish list, because nobody wants to go out to the grocery store when you can get it delivered directly to your door. There's no hassle, no stress. It's goodranchers.com. Use the promo code Jill and claim your free holiday ham while supplies last. So put down the car keys, get it delivered right to your door. Goodranchers.com, promo code Jill. Goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. It's a good time in Phoenix at AmericaFest, and we have somebody here that I've wanted to get on Blaze News tonight for quite some time. Eric Metaxas is our guest. He's the host of the Eric Metaxas Show, and I look at this, and I was talking to Glenn Beck earlier today, and he's like, oh, you're going to have Eric on the show?
Yeah.
This is phenomenal. I love that guy. So thanks for stopping by today.
Well, it's a sacrifice, but I felt I had to do it.
Yes, somebody has
It's
to.
a real
It
sacrifice.
makes you stronger, right?
Yeah. I'm thrilled to be here. Big fan of what you guys do.
Yeah, so let's just get right to it. Right in front of you right now, you have a book that you need to tell us about.
Yes. Well, just the other day in New York City, where I live in Manhattan, we had the 25th anniversary gala, black tie gala for Socrates in the city. Now, a lot of people who know me from my books, my Bonhoeffer book, my show, they don't know about Socrates in the city, but this has been at the very heart of what God has called me to do for over 25 years. The idea is pretty much, Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. In other words, let's think about the big questions. And as a person of faith, I know if you think honestly about the big questions, even Socrates understood this, right? If you think honestly about the big questions and ask the right questions, you will go slowly toward the truth, because there is such a thing as truth. And as a Christian, I know Jesus is truth. And so if I'm interested in drawing people to God, all we need to do is have honest conversations about the big questions. So for 25 years, I've been interviewing huge names on the biggest questions there are. You know, does God exist? Is science compatible with faith? And on and on and on. All kinds of big questions, usually with a good amount of humor. We have fun. And so we've been doing it for 25 years, so we thought it's time to get a book together. So I picked some of my favorite conversations ever and put them in the book. So I'm the one, you know, having the conversations, but the people that I interview, I mean, honestly, some amazing people. One of them, Apollo 16 astronaut Charlie Duke, who walked on the moon. You ever walk on the moon?
No.
You ever walk on the moon?
No.
Me neither. He walked on the moon 52 years ago, and the interview with him about the experience, he was very involved with Apollo 11 when they first put, you know, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. He was very involved. He walked on the moon, Apollo 16. When he came back from the moon, he had a complete meltdown life crisis. Now think about this, right? Like, you've achieved the highest thing anybody could ever achieve. You walk on the moon, and then you think, now what? Now what? And so basically, long story short, God came into his life very dramatically. So he told that story at Socrates in the City, and I thought, this is so fascinating, but that's only one of many conversations that I've had. Some people know Dick Cavett, who was one of the great raconteurs, TV legend. He's become a friend. I interview him, and we put that in the book. So I've just had a lot of fun, but it's a wonderful thing to think about the big questions and to do it with a sense of, not just a sense of humor, but a sense of joy. That's like, let's actually have a conversation about the big questions.
Now, Eric, I was on X, forgive me, the other day, and sadly, I'm on it a lot of days. And on this social media platform, right, of all people, Grimes, the former partner to Elon Musk, lamented the death of philosophy. Yeah. And she was saying, it's actually a very serious post. She said, why is philosophy dead? This is terrible in academia, et cetera.
Yes and no.
And I was in, I was in higher ed for a while too, and I couldn't help but think that the universal problem is that Socrates, he didn't die a natural death. And so Socrates in the City, right?
Yeah.
Part of it is, how do you get past the fact that telling the truth, can be dangerous and does meet resistance.
Well, isn't that the whole point of the truth? If you're living your life like to avoid trouble, you're an idiot. You're a stupid idiot, right? You're supposed to live your life to do, what does God call us to do? He calls us to speak the truth in love, to be courageous, to stand up for those who maybe need somebody to stand up for them, and all the stuff that we know is right. To live your life with dignity, with honor, to speak the truth, as I said, to be courageous. Well, that's the point of life. Of course, you're going to get evil forces coming against you. That's the point on some level. In other words, if you are not doing anything good, you won't have any trouble. But you'll lead a meaningless life and probably go to hell forever. We don't need to get into that. But the point is, that's the joy of life, is knowing what is right and standing with those heroes in history who did the right thing. I wrote a biography. That's how I met Glenn Beck. I wrote a biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Came out in 2010. Glenn had me on the show, and it blew up. Why are people attracted to the story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Because he actually cared about what is right, what is true, what is the right thing for me to do, and he did it. And the reason we're talking about him and people are making movies about him and is because he was a hero. So we all really want to be heroes. We don't want to avoid trouble. So Socrates, I just read a biography actually of Socrates, brilliant book. He was not a person of faith in the sense that he couldn't say like, oh, I'm a Christian or I believe in the God of the Bible, but he knew innately there's such a thing as truth, and it's worth fighting for, it's worth exploring. We're all going to die. Is that surprising to you guys?
I've heard that
all going to
before.
die. So
I think about it every day to stay sane.
I want to put my life and my death in God's hands. And by the way, when you die, if you love God, you go to paradise. It's not like, oh, what a bummer, I got to go lie in a grave. No. When you die, you don't die. So these are basic things. And if you know these things, you're going to live differently. You're going to live heroically. You're going to live with joy and with dignity. And so to me, that's ultimately the idea of philosophy. Now, Socrates really got that. Philosophy, if anybody says philosophy has died, it's because philosophy, like art, it's kind of devolved down into the cynical lunacy. But pure philosophy, which is asking what's true, what's the meaning of life, that's the philosophy of Socrates. That will never die as long as they're human beings, because we all have those questions. And Socrates in the City, we try to answer those questions, or at least ask those questions and get people to think about them.
Eric, you're so vocal about Christians needing to engage in the public square. And now it feels like a time that it's kind of cool to be conservative, cooler to be Christian than it has been in a long time. So if people have come out and taken that first step and say, okay, I could do, that small thing. What's the next thing? What's that next shift that you want to see?
Well, I would say this, two things. First of all, being a Christian, I'm a Christian, being a Christian is not about a philosophy or a lifestyle. It's about a personal relationship with my Creator. My Creator is alive. He's not an idea or an energy force. And God wants us to have a personal relationship with Him because He wants to guide us, right? And so ultimately, every one of us has a different job to do, and we have to just ask God and say, Lord, lead me. Because I can pretend I've got all these ideas and stuff, but in my career, I have noticed God has led me pretty dramatically. I don't say this stuff lightly. And I look back, I mean, the Bonhoeffer book, most people, that changed my whole life. That really wasn't my idea. It kind of happened in a certain way, and I just was open, you know. So the first thing I would say to people is that you want to simply ask God. You know, people don't get fancy. Just say, God, you know, if you're there, you want to lead me, show me. And in strange ways and through circumstances, and God leads us, and just say, keep leading me, because I don't want to do something, I don't want to waste my time. You know, I don't want to climb up a ladder that's leaning against the wrong building. Show me what you want me to do. The second thing is, which follows, that we're all called to different things. I know that God has called me to the culture. The reason I do Socrates in the City, the reason I'm doing a lot of these projects, we're trying to fund TV projects, is because I feel like, you know, we're good on politics, like, and politics very, very, very important. You know, some people get on theology, but the culture, the stories we tell, the TV shows that we watch, in some ways, conservatives and Christians have failed in that. So that's a big piece of what God has called me to do. So I'm working on many, many projects.
Can you actually talk about that just a little bit more? Say a little bit more about that, because I think this is really, really important. The way that what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is that we are now, I look at it, we're in a whole new frontier as opposed to what it was before November.
Yeah.
And it's the most exciting time in my lifetime, because everything that you've been about, it's like now, the time is now. You think this is right?
No, there's no doubt about it. And it's something like we're living in an historic time. Like no one in our lifetimes has seen anything like this. Nothing. I mean, this would be like living through the American Revolution or the Civil War, or you just think, like, what can I compare this to? And the point is, we don't know. But I know that God knows, and I really do believe it's interesting when I hear people like Elon Musk and Trump talking about a new golden age. Any other time somebody would say that, I'd say that's a utopianist lunatic. But right now, no. I think that this is right. I think that God's will for America, for the whole world, but America in the lead, because He's ordained us for this job, is to lead the world to a new birth of freedom, to quote Abraham Lincoln, that people around the world who didn't even know you could have freedom and self-government would begin to see it. I see a lot, but I do think that the culture is at the heart of it, and I keep saying we have to re-catechize the culture. There are two TV series that I'm trying to develop, both based on two of my books. One of the books is Atheism Dead?, which deals with the existence of God. Does God exist? The other one is If You Can Keep It, which deals about the link between liberty and faith, or virtue and liberty. And I thought these are two narratives that in our lifetimes, they've all gone in the wrong direction. In other words, if you watch TV over the decades growing up, it's kind of like the basic idea is out there in the drinking water that, like, faith kind of stands against science, or science militates against faith. That is a total lie. It's total garbage. And so in my book, Is Atheism Dead?, I show that science points to God on a level that even I couldn't believe it a few years ago. And so I thought people need to know science itself. I mean, if God created the universe, science, the discovery of what's out there, is ultimately going to point to God. That's not crazy, but we've been living in a time where just the opposite has been pushed out, so that even people of faith say, well, yeah, I guess maybe faith is at odds with science. Complete nonsense. Atheism is at odds with science. I can't get into that now, but that's a narrative that is flippable, and I want to flip it. And the other one is the idea of America's role in history, and what God's plan is for America, and how we get to have the kind of freedom that the founders understood would be possible. That needs to be taught to every single school child so that we can keep the republic. So those are two things that I'm particularly focused on.
We are absolutely in agreement with that. And one of the reasons that we're in this place right now, that we can have this cultural change, happened on July 13th, right? Donald Trump, we believe it's divine intervention.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt.
And we see now the things that have unfolded in him personally. To get to where we are right now. What's your take on that, and in that evolution that you've seen?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to say that sometimes God does stuff for our benefit. I mean, any real miracle, God doesn't need to do miracles. He does it for our benefit so that we go, whoa, that's God. And what happened to Donald Trump wasn't killed, right? Okay, but there could have been no bullet fired. They could have. He would be just as alive if no bullet had grazed his ear. But God did this on purpose to say, "Hey, America, that guy should be dead. America should be dead." But by God's grace, Trump is alive, America is alive, and God is saying, "You get it now? You get it? I have saved you for a purpose. Don't miss it. Do not miss it. Don't go on business as usual. You have an assignment to restore America to its roots, to its biblical roots, to its roots in the founding principles." This is a very, very exciting time, and I'm absolutely convinced that Trump gets it. He's appointing people who get it, and we've all got a job to do to like pitch in for God's purposes in history, and we should thank God we're alive right now.
Well, Eric Metaxas, it's always a fantastic conversation with you. Where can people pick up Socrates in the City?
SocratesInTheCity.com, and you can see all the videos. Tremendous. Honestly, I didn't have time, but the conversations like you won't believe, life-changing. Or you can just go to my website, ericmetaxas.com. Everything is available at ericmetaxas.com. Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on the
both.
show
Thank
today. This portion of the show is brought to you by ChristianCollegeGuide.com. Very appropriate right now because college is a major investment, and it's important for you to go out and do your homework. So let ChristianCollegeGuide.com be your guide. They have over 250 colleges for this online directory, and they're going to answer all of the questions that you could have about a school. It's over 150 questions that they ask in every school that they have profiled, and it's completely free to use. So you have nothing to lose. Just go to ChristianCollegeGuide.com right now, create a user profile, and get started today. It's ChristianCollegeGuide.com. It's AmericaFest. We are finding so many interesting people to talk to, and right now we have Mehek Cooke with us, and she's an attorney who served as a political and legal surrogate for Trump 2024. And there was a lot of things that they were trying to throw at him legally this time around, right? We had so many different issues that Donald Trump has had to face, whether they were true, and most of them weren't true. And that had to be an interesting ride for you during the election cycle.
Look, Jill, it really was, because you roll up your sleeves and you look at the indictments and you're like, wait a minute, the statute of limitations is completely gone off of this bogus business records case. Wait a minute, you're going to try and tear down the president of the United States who's trying to run and call it political interference. Critical election case law was at stake. And what was so disgusting is we had so many district attorneys that were weaponizing the law against President Trump. And I'm like, there is no way, game over. This cannot happen in the United States of America. It's not a third world country. Let's go. So it was incredible to continue to fight and educate real Americans about what was at stake here. It's not just President Trump. It's every single American being targeted by the FBI and DOJ. It's sickening.
So do you feel like now, I mean, cautious optimism, obviously, but when it comes to especially all the ridiculous stuff that when they came after President Trump particularly, is that pretty much over? Has it all collapsed? Or is it just going to be ongoing forever?
No, I think it's ongoing because we have a lot of corruption, and it's deep-rooted, right? It's not just top-down, it's top-down all the way to the bottom. So I think as district attorneys start looking at, look at the case in Georgia. Should this prosecutor, any prosecutor, litigate an election interference case? The answer is no. So I think our country's going to get straightened up, but the rule of law is constantly prevailing, and we need to keep winning and educating Americans and future attorneys. Don't mess with the system, because we will win, we will fight, but it's not going to just happen overnight. We need to continue to eliminate people that are in our DOJ today, that are in the FBI, that are weaponizing it against good people. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Do not use the law when you don't believe in somebody's politics against them. This is not a banana republic. We live in the United States. We have to follow the rule of law. So it's going to take some time.
I love the passion and the energy that you're bringing right now. And we were talking a little bit before we started here about your story, right? You were born in India and moved to the United States when you were 5, but you did it the right way. You were talking about the rule of law. Your family did it the right way, and immigration is important to you.
It's really important. I always say I was born in India, but made in Ohio, made in the United States. I had the typical immigrant story, the right one, the legal one. We came here, Dad had $30 in his pocket, worked 7 years straight, 3 jobs. 10 family members in a home. We worked and we built together, and we did it legally. And now I'm watching the southern border for years where people are coming into our country. They're disrespecting the rule of law, and yes, they are criminals. They're illegal aliens. That's what they are. When you come in and the first act is to break the law, and then you're going after women, you're killing them, you're raping them, or children, it's disgusting. This is under the Democrat administration that we have to fight against. So I'm very passionate about legal immigration. I'm going to continue to fight for it, and I'm telling every illegal I meet today, pack up your bags and leave. And I think you should leave today so you can come in the right way. And if you have committed a crime, your time is up. You are not going to be coming into the United States. I don't care if you have a child that was born here. You have broken the law. Pack your bags and leave.
I mean, yeah, and so as someone who grew up in Ohio, I love this too, like not on the coast, right? Not on the coast. You were front row seat for this whole controversy that certainly we reported on a lot at Blaze about Springfield, Ohio, and the fact that there were 20,000 Haitian migrants dumped onto that town, and the media, went absolutely nuts. The cats and the dogs and all this. Tell us about that and how you saw that unfold and what your thoughts are.
So this is difficult. I live about 45 minutes from Springfield. I have family still there, and we have to be very clear here. The Haitians that are living in Springfield, right now they have legal status. They're not illegal, they're not criminals, unless they're committing criminal activity, and then they don't belong here. That is just my rule of thumb. But it was interesting because I'm sitting on CNN the day that cats and dogs story broke out, and this is my message to CNN and the liberal media today. It took cats and dogs for us to talk about illegal immigration, so let's go. Let's talk about the difference between illegal and legal. These Haitians here today have legal status, but my message to them is pack your bags. TDS, this temporary protection status, is not going to be given to you indefinitely. Go back to the country and make a plan to come here legally. And again, anybody who's committed a crime, they're not going to be able to stay here, and they're not going to be able to apply for a visa in the future. It's not permitted, it's not acceptable, and it's sad to see a small town like Ohio just being run.
So one of the craziest things that came out in our coverage of that is a number of things. A, crimes were being committed and they just weren't being checked, like traffic violations, and people weren't driving into Springfield, some of the outlying towns, because they felt like the roads were dangerous because they weren't enforcing the law. That's number one. But more disturbing, and I think it was sort of lost in a lot of the media coverage, it is like one journalist who went out and looked at this. These people were essentially indentured servants. I mean, they were being brought in buses through one company. A guy made millions of dollars off of sending them out as like temp workers other places. Now, I don't know about you, but that strikes me as pretty typical, right? People don't talk about it because they're just very compassionate, and that's immigration. But places like Ohio are hard hit by this, where instead of bringing in the kind of businesses that we were talking about before, instead of bringing like chip manufacturing, right? Instead, we have temporary workers who are being used and abused, frankly. Of course, the left doesn't care. And that's the story of a lot of middle America right now. Am I wrong? Is that...
No, you nailed it. We traded our homelessness population for illegal immigrants. We gave them handouts with housing. We gave them handouts with cars. We gave them handouts with education, healthcare, you name it. It's all on taxpayer dimes. But the problem is many of these illegals don't speak English. They don't know how to assimilate. They don't know how to survive and thrive in America. So let me tell you, they live in the shadows. I've practiced immigration law. I can tell you firsthand, there are true asylum cases, people that are running from something terrible, persecution in their countries. But when I ask the Haitians, why are you here? American dream. Everybody wants that, but you've got to do it legally. And I've been to the border. Many of these individuals are not running from something, they're running to our country.
Well, it's not just the homeless that the illegals have taken over for. A lot of them are veterans as well. And you see the veterans of this country are not getting the love and care that they deserve for serving our country. And I understand that you wrote an article about Pete Hegseth, because if he comes in as Secretary of Defense, he has some plans to change things in a very big way. But because he has big plans and big ideas, they attack him.
100%. Look, I think the weaponization of the Me Too movement is gross. I think that they're true sufferers that have gone through that, women that have been violated, women that have been silenced. But to now use this is the left's tactic. How do you tear somebody down like Pete, who has a stellar record, who has a service record, who has a bronze medal? How do you tear somebody like that down? You throw the Me Too movement and you hope it sticks. It's not going to stick. People are fighting back today. You are not going to tear people down that you don't like by the Me Too movement. Women are sick of it. I'm sick of it. This is not the way you treat people that have served our country and put America first. And the problem is today, woke culture is so scared of somebody like Pete. The detractors are terrified because he's going to get law and order and our defense all figured out on day one. He has a plan, and that is what fears, that fear-mongering has started, where it's, oh, he's going to get rid of us. Yes, he is.
So, we're in a situation now where it's a whole new frontier, and we're happy to be having these battles over who Trump nominates and gets in there. I welcome them. Let the fight continue, right? But it's a whole different environment than we were all in pre-November. Yet, a lot of these issues haven't gone away, right? And the challenges remain. So, talking about Ohio, for instance, I mean, when you look politically, at the national scene, what do you see as the pressing issues facing that state?
Look, I think with Ohio, the number one issue next to illegal immigration, like every state is now a border state, it is the economy. And it's not just going to happen on day one where we're going to say we're able to afford gas and groceries and everyday living. I think we have to start pushing back at the Biden-Harris administration. The fact that we have Intel there, the fact that we can be the largest chip manufacturer in the world, beating China, that needs to be the focus. And what is the Department of Commerce doing? They're holding up our funding. They're trying to tell Intel, who knows best, how to manufacture chips. That is where we need to push for economic growth, development, workforce. We need to push back. Every single day that goes by that we're not getting those dollars in Ohio is another day that a family can't feed their children. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it's all about economic independence, energy independence. There's so many different facets that we could just sit here and talk to you about all day. But Mehek Cooke, I'm so glad that we got to chat today. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This part of the show is brought to you by Homestead. It's a new movie out by Angel Studios, and this holiday, it's where you can go through and see spirit meeting survival. It's in theaters today, actually, and you can go through and see the Christmas spirit and get through to a world where the family, love, and hope shine brighter than ever, even in the darkest times. And you can pre-order your tickets at angel.com/Jill for your chance to win a $300,000 giveaway. It includes one full Bitcoin, a fully furnished home from Tiny Home BoxHouse, and a custom Polaris OHV by Sparks Motors, and everything else that you will need to start your own homestead. You can go ahead and get your tickets at angel.com/Jill. That's angel.com/Jill. We've had a great time at AmericaFest, and this is the last 5 minutes of our show, not only at AmericaFest, Matthew, but of the 2024 calendar year for Blaze News Tonight. We're wrapping it up in style.
I didn't even think of that until right now.
That's why I'm in this seat and you're over there.
Yes, that's very true.
I'm leading you here to say that it's been an incredible year, and I love that we ended the show the way that we have, because tell me another conference that you could go to where you could not only talk about all of the political things that are happening in the country, but all of the philosophical things that we had with Eric Metaxas, all of the things that are happening, the attack on Christianity around the world that we talked about with Michael Knowles, the immigration issues earlier on the show. Like, it's a good wide-ranging show, because that's what you can do here at AmericaFest. They're certainly not doing this on the conferences that they have on the left. They cannot stretch that far in a single show.
No, it really is incredible. You just think about the interviews we just did, and as you say, they span the gamut. We're talking about culture, we're talking about theology, we're talking about politics, because it is the winning side. It's a rising tide. This is what winning looks like, and it's really about how to guide this momentum moving forward. And to think, we started this show. Remind us what was going on then?
Well, it was 2 days before Donald Trump was shot on July 13th. We launched Blaze News Tonight on July 11th, and ever since then, it has been a complete whirlwind, and it's actually more optimistic than we thought July 13th, 14th, 15th. We had no idea how this was all going to turn out.
Well, and you should all realize, I mean, Jill came up with "Welcome to the Chaos" in the midst of that as the obvious tagline for the show, which she says every night, "Welcome to the Chaos." But sometimes the chaos is sometimes chaotic good, right? And we see chaotic good all around us at this event, and that has been a real blessing as we rolled after November. And it really is. You're right. It's just a fitting place to end the year for this show.
I feel like we're going to have chaos for good t-shirts or something coming out here, but I just want to end the show with the feeling of renewed hope and optimism, because we have had so many gifts that have been given to us as a nation this year, and I think that even just looking now at the political fight that's going on in Washington, D.C. with the CR, and the fact that they didn't go through and just ram 1,500 pages through, right? And the rhinos were very upset that, we couldn't just get this bill passed before everybody figured out what was in it. No, because it's a new time, it's a new place, and that sense of optimism has never been better.
I mean, there's also the gift of this Mayflower cigar that Michael Knowles gave me.
It is the Christmas season.
Here.
It's a good Christmas
bribery,
gift.
but I'm going to keep this right here. And that's the kind of, the gifts just keep on coming, to be honest. I mean, every time I look around, there's someone new in the administration, and some of these lesser positions that people don't pay attention to. Is just an incredible person. You see a lot of shift in the media culture space where great things are happening. You see a lot of institutions that are looking for new leaders and building back better, for real. And that's a good thing too. And just the energy, like I said, it just feels it's like a very normal and positive and confident, I guess. Is a confidence that I think has been lacking on the right for some time.
It's a new frontier, as you like to say, for a cultural and commerce movement.
Oh, by the way, to our audience, in return for this cigar, though we didn't actually exchange transaction, but he gave me the cigar.
It's a barter system?
I gave Michael Knowles a copy of Frontier magazine, which all of you should check out.
Yes, but to go back to that point, I think that it's not only just the political stuff that we're seeing, because that's good on one hand, but it's not enough to sustain a movement. Having just a political movement, it also has to have the impact on culture, and this is why we talk about everything that's going on in films and lifestyle, because it's such a big message that people have to get across.
Yeah, I mean, technology, technology, entertainment, fashion, even all these things are really important, because the bottom line is, what is the American way of life, right, going to look like in the 21st century? What is the American way of life that makes sense after we sort of went the wrong way for a while? And in order to answer that question, we have to come together and explore all these like cool areas where people are doing interesting things and providing interesting models. And that's the new universe that we're in. And that's exciting because, I'm excited for next year already, because we can just explore all this territory as unbelievable, incredible things happen in Washington, D.C.
I can't wait to see what unfolds in 2025, because 2024 has been a gift that we didn't know. We didn't expect any of this stuff to happen, but I'm very thankful to be sitting here right beside you and getting to talk to the people every night and bring them the news.
Same. Jill works hard, and it's incredible. It's been an incredible ride, and we're also just grateful for our audience. We met some people here, very kind words, and that means a lot. It means a lot to us.
It does, and we will be with you on the other side. 2025, everybody is going to go out there, and I love that we can say Merry Christmas. It's cool again, so Merry Christmas to everybody in the audience. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you back here in the new year.